And we are live. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Reason. Religiously educated atheists, secularists, and other non-theists. I'm your host, aka Aeolus, your favorite atheist. And today we have a very special guest with us, the one, the only Pimpmunkx. Pimpmunkx, go ahead and
How
introduce
you doing?
yourself to all of your future fans out there.
How you doing? I'm the sexiest man in the world, Pimpmunkx, and it's nice to meet every one of you.
Tell them a little more about yourself, your channel, why you do this, all that good jazz.
Okay, my channel is youtube.com/Pimpmunkx. I'm an atheist comedian. I try to make people laugh. I try to make people think. I try to piss people off. That's pretty much it.
Sounds great. Okay, so here is the big surprise that I have for Pimpmunkx, because I'm very familiar with his channel, and I know that there's one specific thing that he talks about a lot, and so that's going to tie in to the new science this week. So let me go ahead and get this screen share going, and we're going to talk about this new science. Let me know when you guys can see it. Visuals, okay. I wrote up a little piece here. Here we go. Poop could be a gold mine, literally. Surprisingly, treated solid waste contains gold, silver, and other metals, as well as rare elements such as palladium and vanadium that are used in electronics and alloys. Now researchers are looking at identifying the metals that are getting flushed and how they can be recovered. This could decrease the need for mining and reduce the unwanted release of metals into the environment. If you can get rid of some of the nuisance metals that are currently limiting how much of these biosolids we can use on fields and in forests, and at the same time recover valuable metals and other elements, that's a win-win, says Kathleen Smith, the person who spearheaded this research. How much of a win? How does millions of dollars of winning sound? In their recent environmental science and technology paper, the research group studying the issue calculated the waste from 1 million Americans could contain as much as $13 million worth of metals. That's money that could help fuel local economies. At $280 per ton of sludge, the money is just coming out of our asses. One of the problems facing the research is that they have no knowledge of all the other valuables that may be in our poop. Smith and her team are on a mission to find out exactly what is in our waste. We have a two-pronged approach, she says. In one part of the study, we're looking at removing some regulated metals from the biosolids that limit their use for land application. In the other part of the project, we're interested in collecting valuable metals that could be sold, including some of the more technologically important metals, such as vanadium and copper, that are in cell phones, computers, and alloys, Smith said. To do this, they're taking a page from the Industrial Mining Operations Method book and are experimenting with some of the same chemicals called leachates, which this industry uses to pull metals out of rock. While some of these leachates have a bad reputation for damaging ecosystems when they leak or spill into the environment, Smith says that in a control setting, aka coming out of your ass, they could be safely used to recover metals in treated solid waste. Boom! New science this week. Poop! Pimpmunkx, does that make you want to go take a shit?
It does, but you know, it's calling it leachates. Why don't they just call it leachits?
I don't know. I don't know if I was mispronouncing it or not. I've never came across that word before.
I've never heard of poop being expensive. That's pretty.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this straight. My parents were actually lying, and they do crap money.
Yes.
Really?
In a sense.
Thanks, parents. God.
I mean,
I'm gonna stop shitting on all my enemies.
I've heard of people being so uptight that they could shit a diamond, but I never knew we had all this coming out of us. So he said the waste from 1 million Americans could be worth $13 million. So basically, we were each shitting out $13 at some point. That's not too shabby. Might want to start collecting our own waste.
Who the hell would want that
Worth the
job?
effort, though. I know, yeah, right? Where do I sign up?
But wait, but it's like shit, man. You don't know what's in that shit.
Well, we could collect
No,
all the mercury from all the people with the vaccines, right? We'll collect all the mercury out. So.
Wait, hold on.
No,
I
that's actually
remember.
kind of worries me. It's like some of these are like really heavy metals, and that means they were in some people at some point. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, what's going? What are these people eating?
Now, hold on. I remember a Dave Chappelle skit where he talked about putting diamonds in your. Was he predicting the future? Is Dave Chappelle Nostradamus?
That's some good shit.
No, it sounds like Dave Chappelle was actually right.
Well, just imagine that, Dave Chappelle being right, and us mining poop for precious metals. There you have it, folks. New science this week. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brendan so we can get started talking about our main topic tonight, which is the CNN special that recently aired on atheism.
Right, so this past week, CNN put out this special report called Atheists Inside the World of Non-Believers. And, of course, this caught all of our attention. As you would imagine, I'm sure a lot of other people, because this is not the type of thing that you see frequently, I guess, on network television. So, it was pretty much anticipated to see how they would present it. And, I guess overall it was okay, but there was a lot of reaction to it just within the atheist community. I'm not sure how any religious people or Christians or anything like that really what they thought about it, because most of what I've seen were people reacting to it in blogs and just people talking about it in online communities and things like that. So I guess it's a good thing that they took the time to do a special report like this to try to, I guess, normalize atheism, because just getting people to understand the fact that we do exist, and that trying to maybe break some of those stereotypes, or maybe just getting people to understand that this demographic is on the rise, is a good thing. But there were some criticisms for sure. I think one that I saw quite frequently was that the people that they featured on this special report, it wasn't very diverse. So it was very white. It was very male. We hear this criticism a lot, but unfortunately, that's just kind of reflective of reality. That's look at our panel right here. We got 5 white guys. That's not by design. That's just you're looking for other atheists to do something with, to collaborate with, to talk to, or whatever, and that's more often than not, that's what you're going to end up with. And obviously we're trying to change that. We want more women involved. We want more minorities involved. We want people from all walks of life who don't believe in gods to join and be outspoken and all that. So that was one of the criticisms. I guess it's also hard, of course, to try to categorize atheists as a group. I mean, we all know we don't have necessarily anything else in common other than a lack of belief in God. So, right off the bat, it's tough to try to, just say, oh, we're going to discuss about atheism, and then, where do you go with that, really? So, they give some examples. I think they followed one family and kind of how they left religion and what they had to deal with the rest of the extended family still being religious, and then kind of being shunned, even though they're just trying to do their own thing. They don't believe in gods anymore. How they're raising their kids in a secular environment, things of that nature. They profiled another guy who pretty much he lost a lot. He lost I don't want to say everything, but he lost a lot by coming out openly as an atheist, and it really unfortunately, that's the way it can go sometimes. I always encourage people personally to come out as atheists if they can, but don't risk your livelihood, don't risk your safety, your well-being, anything like that to do it. It's if you can do it, then absolutely. But it's I guess if you're an adult, it's a choice you can make. If you're still a minor, if you're still living at home or under your parents' finances and things like that, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're an adult, you can make that choice. And it is courageous to do so. They had Richard Dawkins in there, of course, and I guess the reviews on him came out pretty good. He seemed a little bit softer, was a word that I saw tossed around quite a bit, that he wasn't as harsh as people usually recall him or see him. So I don't know if that's just the way he came off, or maybe he's mellowing out a little bit. But so that was good to see him get some good reviews. Let's see what else. So I guess David Silverman, and he was on there, obviously president of American Atheists, and he talked about his organization, and I guess they spent quite a good bit of time speaking to him and about that. And I guess that was another criticism, is that some people felt they spent too much time on him and his organization. Obviously he's not representative of all atheists or anything like that. Obviously, American Atheists is a large atheist organization. They're fairly well funded. They have a good membership. They do a lot of really good work. And the convention's coming up this weekend in Memphis. But he is an anti-theist. Obviously, he thinks religion is harmful. He tries to fight against it. But at the same time, so basically he has no respect for religion, but at the same time he can understand that people have their, constitutional rights to be religious, but he just is very upfront and forward about going against religion. So, a lot of atheists that are just kind of more passive or even not necessarily anti-theists, they felt that that wasn't really a good representation of a lot of atheists. And they probably have a point, because I think that anti-theists, or people who are as strongly outspoken as someone like David Silverman, are in the minority, are in the majority as far as atheists. A lot of people aren't really outspoken about atheism and things like that. Another thing is that I guess they did a profile on maybe like Sunday assembly and things of that nature, where some atheists, go to some kind of quote-unquote church environment. They have a gathering on Sunday and get together, and I guess people felt like that was kind of playing into the stereotypes, like, oh, atheists have churches and they have beliefs and things like that. There was a guy that said that he puts his faith in, I think, humanity or science or atheism or something like that, empathy, I don't know, something along those lines. But I kind of cringe at the word faith, just because that has a religious connotation, and again, that kind of feeds into the straw man arguments that theists like to make. So, those were some of the things that came up. I guess overall, I think it's a good thing that they did this report. They only had an hour to do the special report, and of course they're going to talk to these, famous, more outspoken people like Dawkins and Silverman, things, and people like that. So it's going to come off as more, skewed towards like the activists and all that. I would have liked to seen, a longer series, maybe like 3 or 4 parts, something like that, where they could kind of get more into the nuance of things, maybe focus more on, atheists who aren't really that outspoken, who are passive or things like that. But, I guess in the end, it's a good thing that we at least have a mainstream media outlet out there, at least bringing some attention to this, even though I don't really watch that much mainstream media myself, especially the cable news networks and that. So overall, I guess it's a mixed bag. And then also during this special, the American Atheists did air what I believe was the first ever atheist commercial on network television. So that was a milestone moment there. And so you guys can all kind of chime in on this and give your opinions. I'll shoot it over to GE real quick to kind of discuss that commercial that I was talking about and how that all went down.
Commercial aired 2 times in the special on CNN, and it. I saw the commercial and it looked really good. I mean, there have been some criticisms about American Atheist logo and all this other stuff, but I mean, it really did just kind of put forth this idea that we are becoming a much more prominent in America. And now, as far as the CNN special goes, I understand the concern about, not really having that diverse of, individuals in it. But at the same time, I don't think that there was anybody actually in the movement or any activists really had any kind of creative input into it. I mean, I don't know. I'm behind the scenes, but I would think that would be at the forefront of anybody's mind that's looking to really make us look good. But then again, it's equally probable that they didn't have that in mind, and they were just trying to highlight the darker side of being an atheist, because that's what the special did for me, at least. I noticed how they used like, for instance, Jerry DeWitt. He is a very outspoken atheist, and he used to be a pastor. And you know, for him to come out as an atheist, I mean, he really suffered a lot of anguish because he changed worldviews basically. And you know, the special really highlighted that, how much is really at stake for somebody to actually go against the grain of this Christian America that everybody seems to think that we live in, despite the fact that we're actually secular in origin. But you know, the entire special, I think, really just highlighted the you know, the possible misfortunes that could come upon our group, you know, for those that are coming out of religion. And you know, I think that's an important thing to highlight to people, because I mean, a lot of are privileged, or you know, we're just out to make people, you know, suffer or whatnot in this country just because we're not Christian and we don't Christianity and all this other stuff. And you know, I think it just really kind of put some humanity into it, and really hopefully got people to see it as like, oh well, you know, it's a really big thing for an atheist to go against the grain in America. So you know what, maybe they aren't BSing about it. You know, I mean, maybe I shouldn't act like they're all privileged and whatnot. And you know, that's what the special really did for me, especially you know, highlighting Jerry DeWitt and highlighting the pastor that still cannot even come out and faith, because you know, he's part of that the project for pastors. The clergy project. But you know, he can't do anything else. He's been trained as a pastor, and that is literally his training, and he can't do anything else. That is becoming to be you know, a really big problem in America. The fact that you know, so many pastors out there are losing their faith because they're having to investigate the arguments that we come up with. You know, the arguments that regularly get touted at their congregation, they're having to come up with arguments against it and really try to validate it, and that's causing a lot of pastors out there to drop their faith. And really just, they're not able to see it anymore, to see, you know, any kind of truth in their faith. Recently, I interviewed Ryan Bell. You know, he went a year without God, which basically means is that he just here and investigated, you know, all of the claims for and against Christianity, and he came out the other side as an atheist, and he did it simply because he just couldn't find any reason to actually think that Christianity was true in any kind of sense. And you know, these arguments that we tout out, you know, the arguments that we make online or on videos or whatnot, are becoming very important, because it's causing congregations to question their pastors, and the pastors are having to come up with answers, and that in turn is having them fall out of the faith. And so I think that we, you know, that what this special really highlights is how relevant we actually are to the turning tide of our social system in America.
I was actually just reading an article that says that 1/3, like 33% of millennial age people, are now consider themselves unaffiliated with any religion. So, good job, everybody.
Yeah, that number jumping up real quick. And while you're on stats real fast, too, I wanted to mention that a lot of people were criticizing David Silverman for a couple of things that he said, and rightfully so. I guess one thing he said was that about 1/3 of Americans, I don't know if he said Americans or young Americans or what he said, but he said that they're atheists, which isn't true at all. You know, atheists, I think, is about 6% maybe overall, maybe, you know, as high as like 10% among the younger generations. But so, you know, he's basically taking the unaffiliated and the other group, or people that they might call unchurched, or people that, you know, they might still be religious, might believe in God, but they don't go to church. They're unaffiliated with any specific religious sect. So we can't claim them as atheists. While a lot of atheists will probably end up coming from that cohort, and you know, that's kind of the first step in heading towards atheism. Certainly, they're not all atheists now, and there's no guarantee they all will be in the future. So we have to make that distinction. That's really important. And Neil Carter, Godless in Dixie, he blogs at Godless in Dixie. He did a really good blog this past week about discussing, you know, the nuns and things like that, and kind of making that distinction. And the other thing that David Silverman said was that atheists are the most hated group in the United States, which I think I have to disagree with. Certainly polls have shown that we are distrusted, and disliked, and that people have a lot of misconceptions about us. They rank us, we're less trusted than any other, even Muslims. So basically, if you believe in any god, you're more trusted than an atheist in the United States. And there's been several different studies done in different ways that have shown this. But to say that we're the most hated group, I think, is going a bit too far. I don't know how you would necessarily gauge that or arrive at that. So I think.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If we go by Facebook statistics, I think that one of the largest hate groups on Facebook is the Freedom from Atheism Foundation. You can't, unless you can direct me to another group that has far more people interacting and far more likes on it.
Well, I pretty much agree that they are mostly a hate group because the behavior that they engage in. I've tried going over to that page before and actually having like civil discourse with them, and they just banned me from the page. They will flame people. They will take people that comment on their page and go to their personal profiles and pull up photos of them and their kids and their family, and then post them on their page, making disparaging comments while they ban that person so they can't respond. Things like that, and they're just constantly dumping out propaganda, all the old cliches, and all the straw man arguments you could think of. So I don't know why Facebook allows them to continue, but whatever. I guess on one hand you have to kind of take it from that side where Facebook is probably going to be a lot more apt to police a group that's like anti-Muslim or anti-Jewish, anti-Semitism or something like that, as opposed to anti-atheist. So maybe they just shut those groups down. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case, but I don't think you can just gauge something like us being the most hated group because there's one Facebook group out there that's that has a lot of likes on it or whatever. And I'm not saying that we're not hated at all. I'm just saying I think it's hyperbolic to say we're the most hated group. I'm not going to play the victim card here.
To both those things. To both those things, Silverman goes on in some of his talks of what he means by they're all atheists, like the nuns, and he does kind of tongue-in-cheek say, like, they're basically atheists who won't admit it.
I disagree with that.
Like, I think there's a conversation to be had, but I can't necessarily disagree with that.
Well, let me just say this, because there are some people out there that aren't religious, but the minute that you say, well, we need to take under God out of the money so that we can better represent all faiths or all beliefs, or we shouldn't say under God in the Pledge of Allegiance, you have these people that go nuts, and they instantly snap, because I actually have a family member that did this who's not religious at all, hasn't been to church in over 12 years, and the minute that we started talking about the historicity of Jesus, he snapped, and for 12 years he's considered himself not religious. And so that's why I say there are probably a lot of people out there that consider themselves not religious, but the minute where religion becomes the primary topic of discussion, they'll show you just how religious they are. And so while maybe the number is 30%, huh?
I can use the exact counter situation of a huge number of people who are probably like just religious in name, but then on these forums that are like anonymous, they'll be like, actually, I'm not really religious. Because they give options of like the normal types of Christians, there's the minority religions, and then there's just other world religions, and then just other religion, and then there's unaffiliated. So it's like they gave a lot of options.
Well, we have to accept that it's far more likely that they're going to be just not religious, because that's what they're classifying it as. If they were going to classify themselves as an atheist, they would have done so.
Well, I mean,
they're not giving their specific personal information. It's not like they're going to say in a poll, oh, yeah, I'm an atheist, and then somebody's going to come burn their house to the ground. So they do have some level of anonymity.
There's no atheist option on this chart.
Well, that's the thing, too. I mean, it's just with these labels, people may not label themselves properly, or, it's tough. And that's the thing with atheism, too, is a lot of people don't want that label, even if it applies to them, because of all the stigma, or they don't understand what it means. They think that, like, agnostic is their position. They don't understand that they actually might be atheists. But anyways, as far as David Silverman goes, like, overall, I have a fairly favorable...
The David Silverman thing, he's probably going too far. But
well, I have a favorable opinion of him
there's a
overall.
conversation to be had.
That's not going to stop me from, criticizing when he says something that's incorrect or being hyperbolic or whatnot. And to your point, like, I know that he might be tongue-in-cheek or he might be having this nuanced position on it, but if you're going to go on a CNN atheism special and you're not going to go into, actually what you actually mean, people who don't know who you are going to come out of that thinking that you're telling the truth. And then when they find out later your numbers are way off, they're going to be like, he was just lying, he's trying to play the victim and all that. So, you have to look at this from the perspective of somebody who actually doesn't know who he is or what the actual stats are, things like that. So I think that's why, we have the criticism. So, Pimpmunkx, you want to jump in here, man? I never seen you be this quiet for this long. What's going on over there? You falling asleep?
I was letting the stars of the show talk. I'm just sitting here listening, but I wanted to ask a question because I didn't see the program. But I want to ask you: it sounds like they focus more on the negativity of being an atheist than the positive, than the actual benefits of being an atheist. Is that right?
I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, but yeah, like I said, there was a lot of this talk about, oh, we're persecuted, we're hated, things like that. But there was also, this whole other, and people going through how their families have mistreated them, or they're kind of like the black sheep and things of that nature. But there was also stories showing how people, have moved on and live, perfectly normal lives without religion and things like that. But I think you bring up another good point, is something that we should discuss, is that of positive atheism, So instead of, just being about what we don't believe in, we can be about, what do we believe in as humanists, or, and kind of, instead of just always being anti-religion, what can we do to promote positivity and atheism and kind of own that label and turn it around so that people will say, oh, atheists, yeah, I know some of them, and it's not a negative thing. So I think that's a good point. What can we do? So maybe that's something that I would have liked to see them focus more on, the positive things in atheism.
Well, I'm not exactly the positive atheist, I'll be honest. I'm more of the asshole atheist, but still, there is, benefits. Like, to me, there's benefits of being an atheist because I feel more free. I feel like I can do whatever I want. Not, you know what I mean by that. I feel like that I don't have burdens on me that I can't do this because I go to hell and all that shit. But most of these Christian people and religious people, they believe they're going to hell and all that good shit. But I don't give a shit if I get criticism. I don't give a shit if I'm hated because I know I'm right. And to me, that means everything.
Yeah, I totally agree there, Pimpmunkx. And I'd like to kind of just speak on the aspect of it, really focusing on the more negative side of it. I really took it as them really bringing to light what it actually means to come out and be an atheist in a very Christian-centered, country. And I do think that they should have highlighted, how beneficial it can be for the person, like mentally and everything. But as Brendan said earlier, it really should have been like a 4-part series or something like that, because there's no way in the hour that they had that they could really cover all the aspects of it in one sitting. At least, I think a pretty good division would have been, half of it been, kind of like the negative side of it, and then the latter half, like, well, but these are the good things that result from it. I think that would have been really beneficial.
Yeah, I wish they'd have had me on there, and I said, "Hey, religious people, kiss my ass."
Okay, yeah, but seriously, I've been advocating for this for a really long time. I have quite a few videos about this, about the positive atheism, and I say this so many times, but there can be a positive side to atheism, and I'm not going to give the really crappy pH scale example here that I like to give. GE knows what I'm talking about. But basically, you need to know that the word atheist carries negative baggage with it, and to make it a neutral or positive term, we have to counteract that and turn it into positive baggage, or positive things, rather. And the way to go about doing that is, when you do things, just mention that you may be an atheist. Try to come out if you can, within reason. If it's not the best financial move for you, or your entire family's going to disown you, then you probably shouldn't do it. And those are just some of the ways that we can try to turn atheism into a positive thing, because in a perfect, normal world, no one would be an atheist because they wouldn't have to classify themselves as an atheist because everybody would be atheist. They just wouldn't believe in a God. But we live in a world that's been hijacked by religion, and therefore we must do what we can to ensure that we're represented, that we're able to organize, and that we can change our world for the better.
But it is so sad that people would lose their jobs and lose their families just because they simply have a lack of belief in God. It's the saddest damn thing ever, and it makes me angry. You're talking about that money shit. I want to take an expensive shit on their foreheads for that because that is just wrong.
I agree. I think that the problem is that there has been centuries of indoctrination, not just in support of the religion, but telling people that if you don't believe in a God, this is what's going to happen to you, and if you don't believe in a God, you're a terrible person. I'm always quoted with Psalms 14:1, but when they quote you that off about how atheists are the most evil people, they're abominations, they never quote the back end of that verse, which is that they can do no good, and simply doing one good thing disproves that verse.
I agree. 100% agree.
So what would you say to any
But
atheist that... Oh, go ahead, Dieter. Go ahead.
Things are only good if they're done for the glory of God, because religious folk get to decide what good means.
You got to do it for the glory of Darwin. Don't you know that?
Yes, and God is love,
So,
so
yeah.
only people who believe in God are capable of love. Don't forget.
And they can always hit you with the apologetic that God was working through you, and you didn't actually do a good deed.
I am kind of proof, though, that God is only love because I hate every fucking body. And I'm an atheist.
That's great to hear when you're a guest on our show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pimpmunkx
so
is
I was
keeping it real. He hates all of us, though.
Well, besides Dieter, I love that voice. It makes me want to touch my nipples.
Do it. Do it.
No one said you can't.
I think that's what the viewers are here for, because they were leaving all kind of comments in the comment section, like, we want Pimpmunkx, we want him now, we want him naked. And, like, you've been making them all these promises, and you haven't... Oh! The nip slip!
Pimp nipple.
Free the nipple, baby.
That's right. Free it, Pimp. Show them one more time. Talk when you do it so they can get the full view.
Oh, Dieter! Oh, Dieter! Oh, Dieter!
This is why I should never encourage things.
Dieter wiggles my Peter.
Now you know you're cutting that clip out for your channel, Dieter. Come on, that's gonna be it.
Oh, that's gonna be on
Oh,
Dieter's. He's gonna
That's going to be my
bookmark
new
that.
ringtone.
You might have to start a 5th channel for that.
Once I'm famous enough, I'll just have a channel of people describing what my voice does to their genitals.
All right, so you guys want to wrap up this talk on this CNN special, and here's another thing too. Like, I was reading about this person who's like blogging over at the CNN Belief blog. Did you see anything about that, Brendan? About how he's been like blogging over at Religion News, and now he's over at CNN, and he's an atheist, and so he's gonna bring like more atheist views to CNN. And this may be like one of the reasons that they started this special.
That sounds plausible. I didn't hear anything about that. I am familiar with their religion blogs over there, and I mean, I don't read a whole lot of them, I guess, but I know they have had some atheistic perspectives over there. I don't know if they were just guest blogs or if they actually had like a regular atheist blogger on staff or not, or if this is what they're doing now. But if that's the case, I mean, either way, whether they had one before or not, I mean, that's always good to have somebody else, over there that might be able to reach, more people, whatever. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're just out here trying to reach people, get people to hear what we're saying about it. So, if CNN can use their, their infrastructure to get people to maybe understand more about atheism and hear another perspective, then I'm all for that. And we all know that Anderson Cooper on CNN is an atheist. I'm not sure that he really ever speaks about it, that frequently on air or anything like that. And I think there's at least, one or two other, I don't know if they're anchors or just contributors over there. Like I said, I don't really watch that much mainstream media or anything like that. But I think, that's a good thing. And considering that Fox News is all like Christianity all the time, it's good to see, another news outlet, if they're going to be doing journalism or giving opinions on religion, to see something that's, a different opinion from that, I guess. So it's a good thing.
What are you talking about? Sean Hannity is an atheist, man. Come on.
Yeah, my thing is, I think that maybe they may be looking at these polls that are coming out and saying, hey, okay, this non-religious group of people is getting larger and larger every year, and so maybe we need to target them and see how it goes. And maybe that special was just they're dipping their toe in the water, they're rubbing their toe on the water, massaging the water with their toe.
Well, I was just going to say we'll see because, we got Easter coming up, and I'm pretty sure this week, always this time of year, they always do the Easter specials and talk about Jesus and all this stuff. So maybe that was just their token atheist segment before they get into all that. But I think GE has something to say.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to speak on the nuns issue. I've spoken on this before, and I just really want to highlight the fact that in which I haven't read Neil Carter's blog post about that particular group, but that group is pretty important because it includes atheist-leaning people, but just as well as people that still consider themselves Christians. See, it's really, at least in my view, kind of a first step for people leaving the faith and coming into a more rational, reasonable worldview. And that's getting out of structured religion and really taking an honest look at your faith yourself. Now, a lot of people that are in the nuns aren't going to do that. They're going to be they're going to be in this nuns category just because they don't go to church or they don't consider themselves part of any kind of congregation. But for those few in the group that actually take a hard look at their faith and try to transition out, I really think that we should foster those people. We should foster conversations with them, and we should really try to not necessarily be so, I guess, not firebrand about it, but not be so antagonistic towards those people. We need to be supportive of them questioning it, and so if somebody out there is coming to you and is saying, well, hey, I've got these kind of questions, or if they're seriously about these things, don't respond with anger at first. Kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, unless you for certain know that they're not wanting an answer. Like if you're having a conversation with G-Man or something, I just wouldn't even try at that point. Of course, that means he wins the argument, but I'm sure he's just going to make that knock on his bed.
Tell me about it. I had a conversation with G-Man today.
Sorry to hear that. I was a nun. I was a nun before I became an atheist. That doesn't mean I lived in a convent, though. But I would have considered myself among the nuns, among the unaffiliated, had I been polled during that, whatever couple-year period. Actually, it probably would have been quite a few years, because I was never really a big fan of church. I was never really a huge fan of structured religion, but I still consider myself a Christian as far as what I believed. So I probably would have called myself, religiously unaffiliated. I probably would have been one of those people that said, like, oh, what I believe in isn't a religion, it's a, relationship with Jesus or something stupid like that, So you have to understand that these people could very well still be religious, although that is probably like a stepping stone towards non-belief. But I think the reason that group's getting so large is because of all this stuff with like homophobia, the whole anti-gay sentiment and all that, and just other things, all the politics, churches getting involved in politics. I think that's a big reason for why that group is expanding so much, more than just people are losing their faith, at the drop of a hat like that. But it is a good thing, and I think it will lead to more people, understanding that religion is not viable. So, Dieter, go ahead and chime in there.
Yeah, a lot of the similar things. An important thing about the nuns group is, like, when they come to you, you have to engage with them. This isn't kind of a situation where you're just like, oh, you're not really religious, well, then I'm not going to waste my time with you. Because they're the people you should waste your time with. Because these are people that are actually questioning, and these are people that can actually be allies in the future if they're not allies already. But a thing, like, Silverman goes more into it, since he's the one that proposed this sort of stuff in the show. He talks a lot about being, I guess you could call, like, a productive atheist. It's one of the worst things you can possibly do for this movement is nothing. It's like, just being an atheist, living your life is wonderful, but if your goal whatsoever is to be part of the movement of making it either normalizing atheism or stopping the, like, violent parts of the religious aggressiveness, then you actually have to take action and encourage that in others. So action can mean a lot of different things, but it doesn't mean anything violent, so don't do any of that. That's all I really had on that one.
So you mean no one can just go out and kill 3 Muslims and say, I'm doing this in the name of atheism?
I honestly don't think anyone has ever done that. Or ever could. And if anyone did, they are extremely mentally ill and need significant help.
Oh, that's such a cop-out, Dieter.
They need to be punched in the
Such a
fucking throat.
There's no dogma in atheism. You can't, like, draw parallels.
No, I'm playing the religious person here. I'm saying that's such a cop-out.
I don't know. I'm convinced that Pimpmunkx has some bodies in his attic somewhere.
What was that?
I said I'm convinced that Pimpmunkx has some bodies in his attic somewhere in the name of atheism.
He
I
probably does.
12 Muslims, 3 Christians, and a couple of Scientologists.
He knows the numbers. Did you have sexual relations with any of them before you killed them? Or
no,
after?
After.
You dirty little necrophiliac, you.
I love it. I love it. They just
Cold,
lay there and
lifeless
don't
bodies bouncing on his bed.
I killed them because I was afraid they were gonna, witness to me. So I, no witnessing during sex.
I can't believe you don't have any Mormons up there. None of them knocked on your door, huh?
I can't get to them. They got magic underwear, man.
So I guess the underwear stay magical even after they die?
Hell yeah.
The Reason podcast does not endorse the murder of any individual.
Yeah. Alright, if you guys are done talking about this atheist special, we're going to do what we do. You ready? Dieter, did you unmute your headphones so you can hear this? Because we're going to move into my favorite segment of Reason. Hypocrite of the Week! Woo! This week's Hypocrite of the Week is going to a New York City police officer who was also a pastor who has allegedly had sex with a 16-year-old that he met at his church. So I'm going to do a little screen share here. We'll show this meme that I made because the video was not working, so we're not going to have that, but we will have this little meme, and I'm going to read you a little bit about this and why I thought it was relevant, primarily because they're doing a lot of victim shaming on this. A lot of people of the church have came out. A lot of people in the community have came out in support of this guy, and they have been shaming the victim. So you can check out the meme there. I'll go ahead and read a little bit from this article. So the assistant district attorney had this to say. He abused 2 positions of authority, both public and vestal, and Sosa's colleagues at the church had a hard time believing the allegations. It's not true, said one of the church's founders, Fernando Gonzalez. It's being made up. Vladimir might have been trying to help the female in question with her spiritual life, he added, saying that he always trusted his colleague with his own 3 daughters. It might have happened that because of her age, she confused the situation. However, the family of the girl says it's the other way around. She's doing very bad. She used to be a top student, a virgin, a girl that was in love with God, and this man seduced her, a family friend who knows Sosa said. She is crying, very depressed. I can say that he destroyed her life. The relationship was discovered after the teen's mother found disturbing texts on her phone. The girl admitted to the relationship, at which point her mother went to the police. So at this time, he's still denying all of the allegations, and they are continue to victim blame and victim shame here in this situation, proclaiming that maybe he was trying to help her with spiritual matters. But for some reason, I don't think sticking your dick in a 16-year-old has to do with anything with spiritual matters, but that's just me.
Okay, so 16-year-old is one of those really like murky areas where it's like getting close to being a legal age for those sort of activities to be okay. But at the same time, this guy's significantly older, he's in a position of authority, so it really doesn't make any sense that she could have seduced him. And even if she did, like even if she was a seductress, that word, mastermind, she's still underage and he's an adult. He should know damn better. So there's no way where he's not at fault in this situation. So this is just bullshit.
No, go ahead, G.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say that this is totally ridiculous for them to be like, oh no, he was just trying to give her some spiritual guys, the like 9-inch kind. I mean, seriously, how can you mistake that? How can you misread that? I mean, oh yeah, how's my spiritual guidance? Come by next week, and I'm sure that we'll get about 3 of them in. I mean, I really don't understand these religious people that try to victim shame people, because this isn't just only a problem in that particular sense, but like if you just look at Christian colleges, they are regularly victim shaming sexual abuse victims, rape victims, and of course it's not just Christian colleges. It's a thing that affects all colleges. But I mean, for a Christian college to do it is particularly douchebagging. I mean, because they're not just saying, oh, it's your fault, you misread the situation. They're saying, oh no, you caused this to happen. Some kind of sin in your life has caused you to be raped.
What does that mean? Like, gee, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what the hell does that mean? Like, she misread the situation, and then her clothes exploded off of her body with such force that they ricocheted, making his penis enter her repeatedly? Like, what does misreading the situation mean?
Well, I think what it's getting at here, at least with the whole misreading of the situation, is that they are trying to place the blame on the victim and saying, well, you just misread it, and therefore it's your fault because you made it happen. When like you said before, it really is just the pastor or this douchebag's job, basically as an adult, not to do that. I mean, and by misreading the situation, I think they're trying to put it in the light of, these rape allegations that happen where the girl has just like buyer's remorse, I guess, basically, and tries to go back on it. I think that's what they're trying to do.
The question I kind of have is, it sounds like she wasn't raped in the traditional sense. Like, it's statutory rape by definition. But it sounds like they actually had a relationship going, which I guess it's better, but it's still kind of a terrible situation to be in, because the girl still could have been coerced in a variety of ways. Because evidently she wasn't enjoying herself, and it kind of went south really quickly. So, this is why I said initially the 16-year-old age is a really difficult age, like in general, obviously. but also because you're mentally aware enough of what's going on, but hormonally enough to not have any idea what's going on. You're not legal most places, but then other countries you're legal. It gets really bad legally and psychologically in that particular age range. And because of that, she might have gone into this relationship actually willingly, but then it just immediately went horrible, and again, it doesn't even matter because it's still the guy's fault completely because of the age difference.
Right.
Not
Even
the
if
age
she
difference,
went into the
age of
relationship
girl.
willingly, there's a reason why when you go seek legal
it's
advice,
willingly.
you have
It's
yeah, even if she did that, there's a reason why when you go seek legal advice, you sign into a contract, usually with your counsel, that you're not going to have a relationship with them. Or when you go see a psychiatrist, you're forbidden from having a sexual relationship with these people, or you can lose your licensure simply because these people are vulnerable and they're opening themselves up to you, and if you take advantage of that in a position of power, then basically you're preying upon people that are vulnerable. And him being a police officer and a pastor just doubled up on it. So it doesn't matter if it was a willingly, it doesn't matter if it was a relationship. He's 100% still in the wrong. And even I would err on the side of caution, which says that her hormones were just crazy. And even if she did come at him, it still should have been his responsibility as a pastor, as a person that's supposed to be setting the moral precedent and supposed to be upholding this view that these church members have of him. He's above reproach. He can do no wrong. He should be upholding that. And so he gets 100% of the fault from me.
No, I completely agree. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to kind of put the, I guess, best spin on the story, but at the same time, there's really no positive way for this to go down. I really feel bad for this girl. I hope she does get help.
Well, yeah, and he was a pastor, so he's pretty much has expert training in brainwashing and getting people to do what he wants. Because that's the whole, or at least in my view, that's kind of one of the whole bases of Christianity, is being able to control people. It's a control method or control tool, basically. And so with him being in that position, having that experience, and then using that on a child, I would agree that it's kind of a shady area at 16, but it's only a shady area within a certain age range. He's obviously outside that age range, and he should obviously know better. Like, even if she came at him naked, he should be like, nope, call on your parents, get back in that room, lock the door.
I don't care if she was. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't care if she. I don't care if she was 18. He took advantage of a situation. He's supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to be her pastor, a police officer. He's supposed to take care of her because he's in that position. So I don't care. I do agree that 16 is a shady area. I've said that many times. But him being in the position that he's in, she, if she comes to him for advice, he took advantage of the situation. Bottom line, he's an asshole. He needs his ass whipped. I know y'all don't believe in corporal punishment, but I would whip his ass.
Yeah, that's the thing with the 16-year-old age, is that I'm actually of the opinion that we should allow for exemptions to statutory rape within reason, like a 2 to 3 year age gap. So if a person is 16 years old and the quote-unquote offender is 18 or 19 and they're in a relationship, I say that we don't need to label that person as a sex offender and all that. That's just kind of going overboard. That's not really what we're intending there. Personally speaking from experience, when I met my now wife, she was 15, I was 17 going on 18, and so as we progressed through our relationship, we were, she went 15, 16, I was 17, 18, 19, so, and she was still under 18, so, and obviously we went on, we continued dating, we got married. So if, for somebody would have put me as a sex offender or something, would be completely ridiculous. But obviously in this case, that was not the case at all. And even if it, just the fact, even if this girl was, say, 18, the fact that this guy has the position of authority of being both a police officer and spiritual minister, guidance, pastor, whatever you want to call it, he has that position of trust and authority over young people, and he abused that. There are like high school teachers who have had relationships with 18-year-old students, and they've been at least disciplined by the school, fired, what have you, if not criminally charged, because it's an abuse of power. You have that power over them. So even if it's not necessarily illegal, you're still kind of coercing them to an extent. It could be completely consensual, but at the same time, just that very fact alone is enough to make it that there's something wrong going on there. And obviously in this situation, the age gap was much larger, and he had, that dual position of authority. So he's completely in the wrong, and to try to blame the victim at all in this case is completely unwarranted, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Those kind of rules actually do exist in a lot of places, where it's like specifically in the situation you're describing. But even then, it's a lot of times a case-by-case basis. There's a very short age range, and obviously this is completely outside of that. That's why 16 is just such a crappy age for like when legality comes in. Like I think it's like 16 to 19 laws are weird.
And
But
I mean, there are some states like
that's a douchebag.
yeah, there are some states where they factor in that and they give you the option to do case by case things. But even in his situation, how do you obtain a relationship with a 16-year-old? As how old is he? He's at least 30, I was guessing. I don't recall seeing it. But how do you engage in a relationship with a 16-year-old? You must be preying on them or abusing some position of power. It's not like you just met her over at the gym or something. It's like, hey, what's up, Ma? Hey, how you doing? No. So anyway, before we stamp him with Hypocrite of the Week, let me go ahead and say that this victim blaming is horrible, and obviously she was affected by it. If her grades are dropping and all these things are happening, her parents were wondering what was happening, so they took her phone and then they discovered these text messages between her and the pastor. Now, this to me is the epitome of where we're failing at in a society when we shame and blame someone for coming out and saying that something happened to them. We automatically default on the side of the person who's in the position of power. And not saying we as we here at the Reason Panel, but we as a society generally will fault upon the person that we trust the most. In this situation, he actually happens to be a police officer as well, and he's protecting the community. And so they probably have this really, really high standard for this guy, just because he's the pastor and the police officer, like the double whammy. And so they're engaging in this shaming and victim blaming, and it's wrong all of the time. There's no situation where ever blaming the victim is right, especially in a situation where the other person had opportunities to not make them a victim, like he did. GE, you had something you wanted to say before I give him the official stamp?
Yes, I would like to make a prediction real quick, and I would like to say that this guy is probably going to get forgiven by his congregation. He's going to get forgiven by his, the people around him. They're going to say, well, he fell short of the glory of God and all this other stuff, and he's going to be accepted back in to prey on more young girls. And that goes into something that I feel very deeply about, feel very passionately about, is that the forgiveness aspect of Christianity. While some people think that it's very positive in it, I think that it's actually very detrimental, because it allows things like this to slip by without any kind of criticism, without any kind of critical thought, and it allows them to get back into the habit of preying on more children. So that's all I had to say.
Alright, so for taking advantage of two positions of power, being a police officer and a pastor of a church, and preying upon a 16-year-old that you met at church, and saying that you were spiritually guiding her in defending these actions, even though they have evidence to show that you were engaged in some kind of unprofessional relationship with this girl. We're going to stamp you with Hypocrite of the Week. Dieter, get out the mallet. Give him the official stamp. Yes. Also, I want to stamp his congregation. Can we give another stamp, Dieter? Can we stamp his congregation? Yeah, because that's absolutely horrible, and we here at the Reason Panel are not in support of shaming, especially victim shaming. And I hope that G's prediction is wrong. I hope that G does not become the Nostradamus of Reason, and I hope that he's wrong and they actually get rid of this guy. Now, even if you're right, G, I have a feeling the NYPD is probably going to drop him. He's probably going to be gone from the NYPD, and I'm hoping that you're going to be wrong in this situation, because it does seem likely that if they drop him from the NYPD, then the church is going to feel like even more sorry for him. And so, like, no, we got to keep him as our pastor, and, you know, he's such a great guy. This is God testing his faith. Pimpmunkx, what do you think about God testing his faith?
God can kiss my ass.
Are you
That's all
inviting
I
God to make a? Are you inviting God to make a sex tape with you?
Exactly. I want, we're gonna have some Jello, some Saran wrap, and some baby oil. We're gonna get all funky. Play some BB King in the background. I'm gonna slap his ass. Say, "Oh, Big Daddy God."
I think Pimpmunkx wants God to get a dirty Sanchez from him.
That would be very interesting to know that the first evidence of God presented was a porn film with Pimpmunkx. He would definitely win a Nobel Prize for that.
Yeah,
I must always value Nobel Prizes.
We'd have to create.
And Dieter's gonna be there. And Dieter's gonna be there talking to me. Fuck God. Fuck him. Slap his ass.
Come on, Dieter, can we get some audio? Come on, give it to us.
I will never do those things.
Dieter has standards. Come on.
It's like I didn't know I had standards until this conversation.
Because you're just a dirty atheist with no moral code.
I am.
Alright, so we want to give a special shout out to Pimpmunkx for coming on to the show tonight. Pimpmunkx, tell them where they can find you. Tell them what you're all about one more time.
As I said, I'm a comedic atheist. I try to be anyway. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Pimpmunkx. Go over there, subscribe, and worship me.
And Pimpmunkx, although he is an atheist, he does accept your worship and your praise and your adoration.
Absolutely. And your money.
And your money. He's got a Patreon too, right? You got a Patreon?
You damn right. Patreon. Go over there, check the link out. It's there. PayPal. You can give me damn money. I got an Amazon wish list. Shit. I'm a greedy bastard.
There's no shame in his game. So with that being said, we may have a couple new viewers. Do you guys want to go ahead and do some outros? I see a couple new names in the chat there. Let's go ahead and shout out to everybody over there in the YouTube section for watching our show tonight with the amazing Pimpmunkx.
Yeah, and I am the Godless Engineer. If you guys don't know, I recently interviewed Pimpmunkx. You can find it out. You can find it over on Secular TV, or you can go to my channel, subscribe, because I'm going to be mirroring it on my channel soon. Be sure to go to my channel and subscribe, because I'm going to the American Atheist Conference this week, and I'm going to be doing a load of interviews. I'm going to be interviewing people like Neil Carter, like Brendan mentioned him earlier from Godless and Dixie, and Kina Databoy, Muhammad Saeed, David Fitzgerald, Teresa Bain, Keith Lowell Jensen, just all of those amazing people. Plus, not to mention, there's going to be a whole ton of other people there that I'm probably going to get to interview that I just don't know about yet. Hopefully, they'll like me enough to where they'll want to get on camera for a few questions. So go to my channel, subscribe. I'm going to try to post updates every day of the conference. If you know me at all, it's not any kind of issue for me to post just like every single day. Be sure to go there. Find me on Twitter. That's a good place to really get in touch with me because I don't really get a lot of notifications right now. You can also find me on Facebook. Just type in Godless Engineer or Godless Engineering. I have a Facebook group. I actually have a lot of groups. But join our main group, the Godless Engineering group, as well as hit like on the page. And I hope to see you guys this week.
All right, all good stuff. I am Brendan, the Prototype Atheist. You can find my channel on YouTube under that name. You can also find me on Facebook, where I post. I share a lot of things that I come across, memes, and just different blogs and articles that I find interesting related to religion, atheism, and science. I also create my original memes now and then. You can find me on Twitter as well. I'm fairly active on there. Kind of do a similar thing where I kind of share things that I find of interest that people might also find interesting. And, don't forget that Wednesday is National Atheist Day, of course. It is April Fool's Day, and we all know that the fool has set in his heart that there is no God, so don't forget that. Also, a little bit advanced notice, April 23rd is Openly Secular Day, so mark that on your calendar. If you have not come out as openly secular yet to your friends and family, if you have the ability to do so, I would recommend taking that into consideration April 23rd. You don't have to necessarily say you're an atheist. You can just say you're secular if that's something that you feel more comfortable with. And then also, for next week's show, Easter Sunday, or as I like to call it, Facepalm Sunday, we have secured both Tombstone the Dead Man, otherwise known as Rational Warrior on YouTube, and also Graydon Square. And we're going to be discussing music, or atheism in music, and humanism in music. And there are a couple of artists who incorporate those themes into their music. And I think we'll just be generally discussing that, giving some of our opinions of our favorite bands who incorporate those sort of themes. So if you're a music fan, be sure not to miss that. And also, give us the bands that you like that incorporate those kind of themes into their work as well. So make sure you catch us next week. That's it for me. Dieter?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dieter Lucan. I do debunking videos, mostly. I also do lots of response videos because my commenters are hilarious. I also have a Facebook and Twitter where I'm hopefully getting more popular in those places. It seems when I make videos and make comments, people like them, and then I get more of people. It's amazing how that sort of stuff works. And I didn't tell you guys, but I'm also going to be at the National Atheist Convention. So I'll probably follow G around. Or he might follow me around, because don't tell G, but I already know people there. Anyway.
Hey, now I know a good bit of people there already too.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. But it's gonna be super awkward because then G's gonna learn my real name. It's gonna be all weird. He might get my number, and then we can text each other about our feelings. It's gonna be awesome.
We already know your real name, Dieter.
No one knows my real name.
All right. So anyway, I am your muscular host. God Works Out, aka Aeolus, aka your favorite atheist. And if you find this video anywhere other than my channel, you can check my channel out at youtube.com/GodWorksOut. If you guys in the chat are not familiar with the Facebook pages, Religion Hurts Humanity and Philosophical Atheism, I encourage you to go check those out. They are the premier groups on Facebook, the pages that I admin, and you guys should go over there and give them a like if you haven't already. a special news announcement for Religion Hurts Humanity. They're coming back. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to their channel or not, but they made this big fancy video about how they're coming back April 1st. So I can't wait to see what video they came up with for the YouTube channel. But with that being said, let's wrap this thing on up. And as GE says, think skeptically, stay godless. As Dieter says, nothing. As Brendan says, keep calm. It seems legit. And Pimpmunkx, you got any final words from the pimp?
Yeah. Holla. Bye-bye.
Hey, I do got something for you before I go, though. You want it? Peace.